Today, we're shining a spotlight on one of Parnell's wellness practitioners who helps people navigate life's, tricky challenges with a bit more clarity, confidence, and purpose. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Nicky, founder of the Holistic Life Coach in Parnell. Nicky, what is a life coach? How does one become a holistic life coach?
Very good question. I would say that traditionally a life coach is focused around goal setting. So, Carolyn, what are your goals? What are your challenges in life? How do we help you set a plan to get there? A holistic life coach is a little bit different. So that's where we look at the whole person. So rather than just simply the presenting problem that the client comes to us with, it's about your mindset, your emotions, your relationships, work health, the whole gambit really, so that we understand you as a person. We know that everything is connected, and when we understand you as a whole person, we can help you create meaningful change.
Amazing. And do you find that goal setting's not that common, or do you find that the people that are sitting with you are quite goal orientated from the get-go?
I find that most people come to me saying that they're feeling stuck, that they don't know really what's wrong. They feel like they're stuck in a little bit of a rut. And I think that we live incredibly busy, complex lives. We have constant connection to digital devices. We have constant influx of information. And there's also a lot of responding to other people's needs. So the concept of feeling stuck or being in a rut is what I most commonly hear. And it's learning to shift from a survive state to a thrive state. So what's important to me? How do I reconnect with myself and look after my own well-being? That may be setting goals. It may be a bit of accountability along the way. It could be self-development. It could be a whole range of things.
Yeah, and I guess when you're thinking, when I've ever, gone to therapy or had a coach or whatever personally, you kind of go, I feel like this is the problem. And quite often the problem that you think it is actually something entirely different. So how do you get those pieces of the puzzle from, your patients to kind of, it's patients? What do you call your
Yeah, clients. Yeah, you can say
clients? Yeah,
patients.
clients.
Yeah,
People who come
clients.
to
Yeah.
you. How do you get to the bottom of that root cause of, that stuck, what's missing, how can I move people into the next phase?
Yeah, great question. Because you're right, there's almost always something underneath it, or multiple things underneath it, right? So I could have a client come to me saying, "Hey, I'm really stressed at work, or I'm struggling in a relationship, or struggling with co-parenting, lacking confidence, whatever that might be." So the first step in my process is a wellness discovery, and that's a 90-minute in-depth session where I look at understanding my client past, present, and future. So clinical best practice in terms of the questions I ask in a particular order that I ask them to help probe those layers and get right down to where I can feel there might be some limiting beliefs, conditioned behaviours, habits that they may even be unconsciously aware of that could be impacting them in this feeling of being stuck, or just not really having the clarity of being able to know what the next step is. So that's very common for me. I talk about clearing the clutter. I'm not there to tell people what to do. I'm about clearing that clutter, that noise that goes on up here, so that they can get to what's right inside. Then I can help them with a plan to get there.
Yeah, you're so right, because when it is that loud and when there is that clutter that you speak of going on, it's very hard to land anywhere because there's so much you don't even know where to choose to direct your
Exactly.
energy properly, right? I heard you say confidence. Is it something in this day and age that we actually do lack real confidence, and it's quite performative almost for a lot of us, whether that's in the workplace or in relationships, or just because of social media and the way in which our lives have multi layers of real versus perceived.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I hear you. And I think on the social media front, I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with social media. I don't mind sharing. It has a lot of positives for me running this business. It means I can reach so many more people than I could on my own in terms of providing insights or wellness tips. The downside with the world we live in with social media is that it encourages constant comparison.
Yeah.
The reality is that we're comparing our real lives with someone's very nicely edited highlights reel, right? Nobody puts their true and 100% of their accurate life on there. We're so scared of
Can
judgment.
you imagine? I mean, honestly,
Yeah,
if we all just put the worst parts of ourselves and our days online, it would be a whole other thing. And you know what? Maybe people would walk around the planet feeling a bit kinder to who they are or who we are, because you know we're all human beings, right? I guess too, I think of that people pleasing and boundaries conversation. Boundary seems to be a bit of a buzzword in health and wellness, about healthily setting boundaries. What does that even mean?
Yeah, it's interesting. And again, it comes up a lot. Often the setting the boundary is easy, it's the holding the boundary that's difficult, right? So we've been conditioned to believe often, whether that's from our social networks, from our upbringing, our family, our religion, our culture, to believe that saying yes makes us kind, it makes us helpful, it makes us likable. And so over time, we learn to prioritize everyone else's needs above our own. And so that healthy boundary is about reminding ourselves that our needs matter too. We can't pour from an empty cup at the end of the day, right? As the old saying goes. So healthy boundaries will really strengthen healthy relationships. I often get asked, oh, what if people don't like the boundary? What if they push back? And I'm saying, yeah, often they will, because they're used to you operating in a certain way. So it is a shift for them. But you'll never damage a healthy relationship by adding in healthy boundaries. You'll strengthen that.
Yeah, I love that. In terms of when a life hits that transition or a reinvention, I won't say trouble, but feeling, and you want to get into the next phase of yourself, how do you move into that? Like, what do you encourage in your clients as a holistic life coach in that space?
Yeah, great question. I'm going through a bit of a transition myself as we move into kind of emptiness. So it hits home for me at the moment, and a lot of my clients come to me with this as well. And I think what is challenging about these transitions is it's often change that's done to us rather than change that we've initiated ourselves. And
good point. It's not like you'd actually choose it if you could. I see.
Of course.
Yeah. Right.
Of course. Right. So whether that is maybe whether that's maybe a career shift, for some people coming to me, they're facing redundancy, or it's maybe a separation or an upending marriage, or empty nest, what have you. Navigating that change can be really challenging, and often it feels like an ending. But I like to view it as this is the beginning. Like, this is where the magic can happen. This is an opportunity, if we take the empty nest syndrome, to reinvent yourself, to get back to the core of who you are outside of your mum or dad role, as an example. You'll always be a parent, that's always important, it's always a great part of who you are, but there's more underneath. So this is an opportunity to kind of discover that, which is exciting.
Yeah, well, I guess that's that identity bit. What part of your identity sits where? Because we can be so many things to so many different people, and when those people or roles move around, what is our identity to ourselves? Is that quite a big, I guess, conversation with your clients around identity, who they think they are versus almost who they actually are?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't like the term midlife crisis.
Yeah.
But the concept behind it is very real.
Yeah, right? It makes sense.
Yeah. So my view on this is to encourage my clients not to see this as losing an identity, but it's a rediscovering of who they are. So it's reconnected with their dreams or their passions or their interests, or part of themselves they might have been put on the back burner because they've been a mum or a dad, or they've been really heavily career focused, or whatever it happens to be. And now's an opportunity to kind of reconnect with their really authentic self, I guess.
I love that, and that space of almost being a little bit selfish again, and the uncomfortable feeling that even brings up when you're not used to having the time to do that. Like, what would I do right now if I was able to be selfish? I don't actually know.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is a big thing for parents, right, with the empty nest piece, because we're so used to our life revolving around our children, and maybe there's a career piece in there as well. And often I hear, oh, they don't need me anymore. And my view on that is not that they don't need you anymore. You'll always be a parent, they'll always need you. But it's the acceptance of transitioning from doing for your children, as you do when they're younger, making their lunch, tying their shoelaces, to sort of sitting alongside and letting them spread their wings. And part of that is allowing them as young adults to make mistakes so that they learn, because everything that we do for them, we rob them of an opportunity to learn for themselves. So once we can get around that adjustment and accept that shift, that's when the opportunities open up.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I've got a 5-year-old, and sometimes the whole let them do it themselves. It's like, yeah, but we'll be like an hour just getting out the door. But no, it's like, still, that's your time management as an adult in the house, Yeah, it's so important.
Absolutely.
Giving people, no matter what age, the space and managing yourself in that space while the other people might not be doing exactly what suits.
100%. Lots of breathing and counting to 10.
Yeah, exactly. Self-management. I'm the adult. What am I going to do to help?
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, in terms of tools, what are some practical tools for those listening that might be, aside from getting in touch with you directly, what's a couple of tools that you could do daily to try and set yourself up for a good day?
Yeah, totally. I think the basics that we all know, so things like looking after our nutrition, sleeping well, it's not rocket science, it's what we all know. We just don't necessarily prioritize those things. So those are the foundations of really good well-being, emotional well-being and resilience. One of the things that I really love to do in practice, long before I became a coach, actually probably 10 or 11 years ago with my children, is starting with gratitude in the mornings. And I wanted to really get them to have a good mindset for the day. And I thought, how do we do this? How do we also build appreciation for what we have in life? So at that time, we started with one gratitude statement. And I thought, how am I going to do this when we're rushing around getting ready for work and school and what have you? So I thought, okay, in the car on the way to school, there's some dead time there. Let's make that productive. So now we continue that. We do 3 gratitude statements and an intention every morning. And it's a really nice way to start your day, because you start off with a positive mindset, grateful for the life and the wonderful things that you do have. And yeah, it's just a beautiful way to start.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to take that and bring it into my house, actually. Many people have never worked with a coach before. So what would you say coaching offers that can't be found somewhere else?
That's a really great question, Carolyn. A lot of my clients actually come to me having had some other therapy of some kind. So it might be with some kind of therapist, a counsellor, what have you. And in my experience, the feedback I get is that's around talk therapy, which is really valuable and super important. I think what coaching can provide is something that's a little bit different and maybe increasingly rare, and that's a dedicated space to pause and reflect and think deeply about your life, I guess, with someone who's there sort of focused solely on you, right? So I often say to clients, I'm your confidential sounding board and I'm your life's tour guide and I'm your personal cheerleader all in one. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I'll clear that clutter for you. So I think where coaching is different, it's rather than giving advice or just group therapy, it's helping people uncover their own answers and then working with them to create goals, if that's required, and a plan, giving them the practical tools to help shift that change and make long-term sustainable change that's authentic to them.
Yeah, that's great. And then when you've got the tools, you can always pull them out when needed at any point in your life
Totally.
after the time with you. Before we wrap up, what's one message you'd like those who happen to stumble across our Parnell Wellness Month chat?
I would love people to know that they're not alone. So I hear often that clients will call and reach out for help, which is such a brave thing to do. And they just feel like they're the only one that's dealing with this problem. And again, we have this perception from social media that everyone's living an amazing life and we're stuck or we're not progressing or we're not succeeding. So I want people to know that they're not alone. It's just, everyone's got their challenges, we just often don't see what those are. And with the right support and some self-awareness and willingness to grow, it's absolutely possible to create meaningful and sustainable change, and that's the key.
Oh, brilliant. So where can we find you on the socials, online? Tell us.
So you can find me on Instagram, the Holistic Life Coach NZ, my website, which is the holisticlifecoach.nz, and I'm also on LinkedIn as well. So any of those opportunities are a great place to connect with me. And I'd love to hear from anyone that's keen to invest in themselves.
That's it. It's great. Invest in yourself. We're the only ones.
That's it.
Yeah, brilliant. That's a great way to end this. Thank you so much, Nicky, the Holistic Life Coach, of course, based in Parnell.
Thanks, Carolyn.